The Lost Art of Hospitality, Part 1. Actually, I called last time Part 1 on giving, but today, really what I'm talking about is The Lost Art of Hospitality. An article by Cripplegate for a new generation of nonconformists, citing Romans chapter 12, 1-2. Writer Jordan Standridge opens his article published August 14th, 2018, titled The Lost Art of Hospitality, with one all-important question. When was the last time you had someone over to your home? That's a good question. Today we're going to answer that. Let's get started. Everybody, welcome to Reason for Truth. I'm your host, Stephen Garofalo. This is Reason for Truth. Truth comes first, reasons last, but we're always and constantly learning. We know the truth is that all too often we don't really have exercise proper hospitality. Going back to this article I just cited, the writer here, he cites again Romans 12, 1-2, which says this: I appeal you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to represent your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Jordan is quoting again Romans 12, 1-2. I think that was the ESV version, in light of the passages that points to righteous practice through physical application and service. And that is materialized through what? Hospitality. Hospitality is part of Paul's appeal for dedication of the life, the Christian life, to all believers, as to become a living sacrifice, which is in contrast to a dead animal sacrifice, right? Instead of just making dead animals and sacrificing animals. But unlike dead animal sacrifices, Christians must serve, right? Serve others. Serve God first. Serve others constantly. And this includes serving others through hospitality in an act of spiritual worship, meaning that it is intelligent, rational, and most of all, deliberate. Let me tell you something about it. I'm just going to get on my little bailiwick and come off script here for a minute. Listen, I grew up in an Italian house. When I grew up, when the door knocked at dinner time, you never turn anybody away. You smile, you give them a big hug, you want them to come in. It's not that you tolerate them. You pull up a chair, and that didn't happen all the time, but when someone did, and the Latin American culture is the same way. I was in a missions trip to Chile. Hey, come on in. Anytime. Now, the Latin American, oh my gosh, over in Chile, when we were there back in there, going back quite a many years, but man, people would come 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I can't say the Italian, or at least Italian-American culture is that same way. But certainly for a meal and to come over, we always had an open heart, an open door, open chair at the table, always. And we wanted them to be there. Now I've seen people really lack in their ability to entertain, to hospitality. Let me tell you something. If you have somebody over, make sure you're thinking of them, not yourself, right? So in other words, if you're going to have somebody over for dinner, make sure that they have something to eat. Make sure they have coffee and creamer and sweet and low in sugar. Make sure you have all those things. It's not about you, it's about them. And if it means if you have absolutely no money but you want to entertain, take a little bit less yourself. Give them a little bit more, okay? Did that on a speaking engagement with a friend once. I spoke 5 times. He spoke once. I preached out of those 5. I preached on a Sunday sermon. He felt so bad when he got paid twice as much as me. That was the deal, because I really wanted him to come with me, and I was laughing. I said, do not worry about it, man. No, I wanted you to come. He didn't want to come in the first place. That was the deal, and good for him, okay? So many Christians rarely, if ever, have people in their homes. It's true. And some people say, that's not true of my home. But, I think it's becoming more prevalent that people just have the people just in a few people they know well, or their family. But, so many Christians rarely, if ever, we're finding are having people in their homes more and more. And if they do, it's just family or select friends. But some people don't even know their neighbor's name. Nevertheless having them over for a meal. But if we read this passage with open eyes, we're going to see that the practice of hospitality is one of the greatest tools God can use in our personal sanctification. Yeah, on us. It uncovers and shows us the art of giving, and giving to our children, to our neighbors, all right, and to our family, and those perhaps we wouldn't even know. But because this demonstrates the love of God, the love of Christ to those that you welcome into your home. Now, you got to balance this, by the way. In today's world, there's some crazy, dangerous people out there. I'm not saying just go out and invite people that, you don't. Today, you do have to be a little bit more discerning. Doesn't mean you can't invite some of your neighbors over and do so wisely. But perhaps above all else, we ourselves are blessed beyond measure when we give of ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we spend a lot of money simply feeding people, but rather that we facilitate gatherings together with family and in our home. It's really about opening our home to the community. You don't have to put filet mignon on. If you need to, get hot dogs and hamburgers, I don't know, or have everybody bring something. People are going to love it. Hey, bring something. What do you want me to bring? Bring this. People always ask. So you don't have to feed 10 people. You have to just make some, maybe you get the meat or the center thing and the pasta, and then they bring the salad, one brings dessert, etc. It's not hard to do. It's an issue of the heart more than it is anything else, right? Giving of yourself. And this entails giving of ourselves in the process. Hospitality helps the heart of communication. So Jordan writes that after talking with hundreds of college students that it's quite obvious that for the most part, they don't know how to hold a conversation. I think this is due to technology and the lack of hospitality shown in their own home growing up. They haven't seen it modeled for them. So what happens? They come home and they'll sit next to their brother or sister and they'll be texting when they're 5 feet away sitting on the same couch. This raises another concern, which is the failure to teach the next generation the art of hospitality as outlined in the scriptures. Let me tell you when hospitality increases, when you have less. Little secret, the more money you have, the less hospitality. Why? Because wealthy people can afford to seclude themselves, to be self-contained. People without a lot of money, they tend to just share what they come together as a community, and that's what fosters hospitality. It shouldn't be that way. All people should be extending hospitality. Even wealthy people can be hospitable to unwealthy people, and vice versa. Why should a poor person not be able to invite a person with some means in? Yeah, if you really love the person, just have them in. A lot of wealthy people would feel uncomfortable about that. Understandably, I get it. Who wants to go to the hood? That's a different discussion, or a place where there's a lot of violence or it's very dangerous. But that's a different discussion. Again, you have to use your wisdom. Furthermore, hospitality helps curb our selfishness. In other words, hospitality is a small way to say, I want to love you without expecting anything in return. There's proper context of that verse, especially if we invite people who seriously can't give in return. And I'm going to add to that list that the wealthy fall into this category as well. Those who will be baffled by the lack of expecting anything in return. The wealthy need to be shown true hospitality. Perhaps if we show them true hospitality, usually the wealthy want to give you something, say they don't owe you anything. But no, I had you over. They're going to scratch their head walking away. What was that all about? They may even feel a little uncomfortable. They may even not want to come back. That's okay. You've shown true hospitality because you've shown that you went ahead and gave without expecting in return. Because a lot of times the wealthy don't understand that when you get with the elite, you make a lot of money, everything's, as my uncle used to say, there's nothing for nothing in this world. Don't tell them. When you're within Christ, that shouldn't be the case. Whether they're orphans, widows, the poor, the rich, the young, the single, neighbors, or even reaching out to the people of other ethnicities than us, we should be in the business of selflessly having people into our home for the purpose of entertaining and helping ourselves, helping them in the way we host them, show our love, the love of Christ. Paul tells us this, to contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show what? Hospitality. Romans 12:13, there you have it. Sacrificial giving without expecting anything in return is at the heart of the gospel. So it's a great picture of what Christ has done for us. And I'll say this, my mom taught me this over and over. She says, if everybody gives, you don't need to keep count. And my closest friends don't do that. I had some who really want to get that close. See, to get into my very, very, very inner circle, we're all givers. We don't count. If one guy gives a little bit much, who cares? Next time he's going to give, but you don't have to worry about it. Counting, because he will. And if you do it again next time, he's going to note that. And then it just all comes out in the wash. Then you have those people who are always like, well, I paid last time, you better get this time. Now, when somebody's taking advantage, maybe you need to say that. But in true friendship, you don't really need to do that. And if you really want to entertain somebody, go do that. Don't expect in return. Just don't have them over. If you want to take someone to dinner or have them over 10 times and they bring nothing, well, you may need to say something to them. Perhaps it's a teaching moment, a teachable moment. Lastly, Jordan writes that hospitality helps with evangelism. I would agree with this. Having people over on a more consistent basis helps you more opportunity for deeper conversation. If you have somebody who doesn't know the Lord and you spend time, T-I-M-E, with them, you're going to get to know their worldview. You're going to get to know a little bit about their life, the difficulties and challenges and the history that'll help you move forward in the Lord. This in turn opens the door to see how others are doing spiritually. With unbelievers, it provides an opportunity to talk about and minister to their soul. Paul says that he didn't just share the gospel with people, but his life as well. 1 Thessalonians 2:8. The alternative is that we can sit in front of the television, the computer screen, or simply keep to ourselves, right? People are like, that sounds pretty good. Get some popcorn, get your wife, and let's watch a movie. Relax and chill. Nothing wrong with that. But the bottom line is we're storing up our treasures selfishly if we do that too much. And this amounts to simply not sharing what God has given us. It amounts to selfish hoarding of our precious commodities. The number one commodity being ourselves and our time and our hospitality. And keeping ourselves from sharing of our own lives, right, is against God's word. It is. And that's, my friends, is a net loss to all of us and to others. So why waste that? God's given each one of us a calling. And each of those callings all include the Great Commission, Matthew 28, to love on others, spend time with them, lead them, make disciples, lead people to Christ, and spend time with them. Be a witness. Even worse, it's travesty, a sin, and a waste of the most wonderful gift if we fail to do that. That's the gift of hospitality. Now, in conclusion, wrap it up here, I want to ask one simple question is, why do so many Christians rarely, if ever, show hospitality and have people in their homes, see? It's one thing to show hospitality, to take someone to dinner. It's another thing to have someone in your home, a little more intimate. Well, this is an issue. Is it an issue of cost, inconvenience, or out of fear of intimacy? How about to be with people? Those are the reasons that a counselor of a psychologist might give you. But Paul doesn't mention any of those things. To open our lives and our doors and our homes and our hearts with the love of Jesus Christ and love of our hearts is a selfless task. So let's move beyond, just having a few friends and family over and move over to have others in hospitality. Sadly, many of us don't even know our neighbors' names, and that's just true. It just is. The truth is that the practice of hospitality is one of the greatest tools that God can use in our personal sanctification, gives us the opportunity to practice the selfless art of giving, and allows us to demonstrate to our children and our neighbors and our co-workers the love of Christ when we welcome them into our home. But when we fail to open our homes and our hospitality, we ourselves miss God's greatest blessing, because when we don't open our homes and our lives, we miss out on the greatest blessing. That's the blessing of God. So I leave you with one question, which is this. Say, what is that, Steve? When was the last time you had someone over to your home? All right, I'll leave it at that. Hey, you know what I'm going to do? Talking about community, I'm going to invite you to my community, StephenGarofalo.com. What are you waiting for? Sign up. There's no cost. There is a subscriber level that'll get you the podcast a little early and a few other things, but you're going to get most everything, no cost. Stephen Garofalo, I want to see you over there. Join up using the Locals app, and then before you go, bam, Gonzalo Sinistro. You know that. I'm Sicilian, baby. Italian-American. What does that mean? Well, that's Italian right hook. See a little subscribe button? Bam, Gonzalo Sinistro. Knock it out. Then you won't miss the next episode. I'm your host, Stephen Garofalo. This is your Reason for Truth for today.